Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin.
Wow. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholder.
Why does one debate ignite so much controversy? Bill Maher, never one to shy away from speaking his mind, stepped onto The View, and what followed was more than just another TV segment. It was a cultural clash that laid bare America's deep divides over politics, identity, and accountability. Maher, armed with sharp wit and an unapologetic approach, went head-to-head with Sunny Hostin and her co-hosts on some of today's most polarizing issues: Trump voters' wokeness and responsibility. But this wasn't just a heated exchange. It was a moment that rippled far beyond the studio, forcing people to ask, how does one conversation become a cultural flashpoint? Why do debates like this linger for weeks? Buckle up, this isn't just about personalities colliding. It's about the fractures shaping modern America. The tension didn't come out of nowhere. The View is known for fiery debates, but this episode was a ticking time bomb. And when Bill Maher, famous for pulling no punches, stepped into an arena fueled by emotion and clashing opinions, the explosion was inevitable.
It was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe.
Sunny Hostin, a sharp legal mind with a strong progressive stance, wasn't about to let Maher's critiques go unchallenged. Add Joy Behar's unfiltered takes and Whoopi Goldberg's attempts to rein in the chaos, and you had the perfect storm. Maher came prepared, wielding humor and razor-sharp criticism, but Hostin held her ground, fiercely defending her principles. Yet this wasn't just another TV panel. This was a battleground of ideas where words like woke and accountability weren't just debated but dissected. Then came the spark that ignited the firestorm. Joy Behar made a stunning comparison, equating MAGA hats to swastikas. It wasn't just controversial, it was explosive. The backlash was immediate, with critics accusing her of trivializing history and demonizing millions of Americans. Bill Maher didn't hold back. He called the comparison reckless, arguing that such statements don't persuade, they polarize.
How are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information. I guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living, on the backs of others.
Sunny Hostin doubled down, backing Behar and emphasizing the need to hold Trump supporters accountable. But Maher flipped the script. He warned that sweeping generalizations like these only deepen divisions, making real conversations impossible. The tension in the studio was thick. Even the audience seemed caught between gasps and applause. This wasn't just a debate about Trump or his followers. It was about how America navigates its ideological chasms. Could this fiery exchange pave the way for understanding, or would it only widen the divide? Then the conversation hit another boiling point. The meaning of woke. Hostin passionately defended its roots, reminding everyone that it originally symbolized awareness of social injustice in black communities. But Maher wasn't letting that slide. His argument? Words evolve, and woke has become something entirely different, a symbol of performative activism that alienates everyday Americans. He pointed to real-world consequences, arguing that policies like defunding the police and cancel culture might play well in progressive circles but create backlash elsewhere.
So awkward on, new episodes of The View when she tries to pull the race card.
Yes.
And then she's like, America is racist. And then they're like, yeah, they might be racist, but they're not like slave owner racist. like somebody that we...
That's so true.
One thing, and I would have even actually not give her any is she said, well, I guess that's just what they did back then.
Yeah.
She should have followed that up with saying something along the lines of, and I understand that that's a departure from the way I've talked about this before.
Sunny Hostin insisted that raising awareness of injustice is never a bad thing. Bill Maher agreed, in theory. But he warned that the left's obsession with language and ideological purity was backfiring, handing Trump and his supporters easy ammunition. The room grew tense. Then the debate took another sharp turn, straight to Trump voters. Joy Behar didn't hold back. She argued that Trump supporters should be held responsible for his actions, calling their continued loyalty a moral failure. But Ma pushed back hard. Reducing millions of people to a single negative stereotype, he argued, ignores the real reasons behind their choices: economic struggles, political frustration, and a feeling of being abandoned by elites. Demonizing them won't change minds, he warned. It will only deepen divides. Hostin doubled down, defending Behar's stance, while Sarah Haynes took a different approach, urging the left to focus on understanding why people support Trump instead of condemning them outright. Then, the conversation shifted again, to one of the most explosive issues in global politics. When the topic turned to the Israel-Hamas conflict, tensions in the room took on an entirely new way. Ma didn't hold back. He condemned protests that, in his view, seemed to support Hamas, a group he bluntly called a terrorist organization. He framed the conflict as a war for survival, insisting that such groups must be eliminated.
It is funny. She is so wrapped up in identity, and she had no idea who she was.
Well, now we understand why she always makes Whoopi get the coffee.
Exactly, because if she is shaming descendants of this, will she continue to do that when she is now one of them?
She raised concerns about the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, pointing to the countless innocent lives lost, especially children and women. Mar acknowledged the tragedy but didn't waver. To him, Hamas's aggression left Israel with no choice but to defend itself. The clash wasn't just political, it was deeply personal. Mar's bluntness drew both applause and outrage, while Hostin's emotional plea underscored the complexity of the issue. By the end of the segment, one thing was clear: this debate wasn't just about Israel and Gaza. It was about the way we navigate the gray areas in global conflicts. But Mar wasn't done yet. Shifting from foreign policy to culture, he took aim at what he called America's mean girls mindset. In his view, the country had become obsessed with punishing anyone who says the wrong thing. Cancel culture, he argued, isn't about accountability anymore. It's about silencing dissent, and he warned, the left's fixation on ideological purity is doing more harm than good, alienating moderates and handing Trump supporters their best talking points.
In her defense, everyone has ancestors that did unspeakably horrible things. It's just that not everyone's ancestors have records tied to their DNA about it. Worried for Sunny Hostin's progeny in the future that do a DNA test and find out that they were related to a cast member of The View. And they're like, oh, it all makes so much sense now. Why I'm so stupid and fat.
He pointed to policies like defunding the police and rigid language policing, arguing that while they resonate in progressive circles, they're being used as political weapons against the left. His message was clear: America's inability to have honest conversations is making real progress impossible. More speech, not less, is the answer. Without meaningful dialogue, he warned, the cultural divide will only deepen. The fallout from Mar's appearance was swift. Inside the View studio, the energy shifted. The audience wasn't fully on the panel's side, and Mar's critiques drew more applause than expected. Even Joy Behar and Sunny Hostin, usually firm in their convictions, seemed rattled. Behar shot back with an indignant "How dare you?" But the reaction in the room made it clear: Mar's points had landed. On social media, the debate exploded. Supporters praised Mar for saying what many are afraid to say, while critics accused him of oversimplifying complex issues and fueling right-wing arguments. The divide was impossible to ignore.
Guess there's nothing worse than to find out you're a white woman.
She's so disappointed.
It's really disappointing.
Her mother was white.
Oh my
The
god.
shame.
Oh my god.
The horror. History, and finds out that this is fantastic. She is descended from slaveholders. She's descended from slaveholders, and she's been apparently getting a lot of mail about her call for reparations because it turns out she's going to be paying them and not actually receiving them.
Mar had either struck a nerve or exposed an uncomfortable truth about progressive rhetoric. Love him or hate him, his arguments left everyone talking. But the real question remains: what does this all mean for the left? Mar's appearance wasn't just another heated TV debate. It was a challenge, his message to progressives. Stop alienating voters with ideological purity and performative activism. Instead, reconnect with everyday Americans and their real concerns. His warning was blunt: wokeness isn't winning hearts and minds, it's pushing people to Trump. But Mar wasn't just pointing fingers. His critique was a call for something better: meaningful dialogue over divisive rhetoric. He pushed back against what he called America's mean girls culture, arguing that real change comes from understanding, not demonization. His fiery exchange on The View wasn't just about calling out individuals. It was a wake-up call for a divided nation. Maher's message went beyond criticizing woke ideology or defending Trump voters. At its core, it was a plea for a different way forward. He made it clear that the current culture of canceling, labeling, and dismissing people isn't working. If progressives want to win over moderates and independents, they need to stop alienating them with rigid ideologies and start offering solutions that actually resonate. This wasn't just a critique, it was a challenge to break free from the cycle of outrage and division, because if the left doesn't change its approach, one thing is certain: America's cultural divide will only grow wider, and the conversation will only get louder.